So glad to have you along today, in part to celebrate Juneteenth, to play these amazing Black American artists and celebrate the freedom that is now what we really want Black people to have in America, even though it's not always exemplary by the way they're treated by their systems of oppression and police. So I'm glad to celebrate them whenever the opportunity arises. But I'm also really happy to celebrate a brand new release from local Central Texan rapper, producer, writer, actor, director. The list goes on, Chief and the Doomsday Device. Welcome, Chief. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
I'm so glad to have you. I was marveling earlier that this is maybe the first time you've been in the studio, which is crazy to me because you've been ever present in the hip hop scene in Austin and San Marcos since I got here. And I'm not a native Austinite, but I've been here for 15 years and you've been consistently producing music since then. Tell us about where you grew up in Austin and when you started making music.
Yeah, I'm actually from not too far around here. I'm over from right down the road by
East side.
Reagan.
Nice.
Yeah. So I've been a fan of music my whole life, grew up in a musical family. And when I went to college and started, well, I guess actually before college, I was hooked up with Nook and Shade and all that.
Nook Turner, Eastside ATX, Deshade Moonbeam, been on the show? Absolutely.
Yeah, that was around like 97, 98, and used to get down with them on Jump On It, the summer concert series.
Heck
and
yeah.
Yeah, Deshade and I used to hit up like spoken word things and whatnot and kind of transitioned into music from there. So that was the beginnings back like 98, 99. And then when I went down to, now it's Texas State, but Southwest, hooked up with a band down there, Liquid Stereo Project, and that was when everything just kind of skyrocketed. So it's been a very long musical journey.
Absolutely. Well, and tell us about, I don't want to call them side projects because each one unto itself is like a huge project.
Yeah, they're like little stair steps.
They really are. You also run a blog online where you review music, you talk about people in the scene. Where can people find that? That's
at chiefandthedoomsdaydevice.com.
Perfect. And you've been in films here in Austin?
Been in a couple.
Yeah.
Ryan Darbon, Doc Brown from Space Camp Death Squad. I was in a short film that he did called I Am Texas with Jonathan Horstman and Audrey Campbell from Pleasure Venom.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was nice being a part of that and getting to see that make the festival run.
Yeah, it showed at festivals, right?
It did.
Excellent.
Showed at a few, got some love from a few.
That's excellent.
And then also got hooked up in a feature with John Valley. And it was Duncan, and then it got changed to the Pizzagate Massacre. A little bit of a hot button title, you know.
Of course.
Yeah, but that was really fun being a part of that feature with just a wealth of talented Austinites and actors, and Colton was in that. Secret Levels was in that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's you feel like you're really in like the tapestry of Austin arts and creatives. So and you've been producing albums. You mentioned I had guessed around 40, and you corrected me and you said it's around 23 full-length albums so far.
Yeah, it feels like 40 sometimes, but yeah, I was making them back in the Word Association days, which was the group after Liquid Stereo Project. Just love collaborating with people, but eventually the need to sort of see ideas out to fruition just got bigger than the pace that I could work with other folks. So
absolutely.
Had to teach myself how to produce, eventually how to record. And then after you put a few projects out, you can start building collaborations with people. So it's been a fun sort of process just watching the solo career evolve from necessity to something that can kind of be both therapeutic and celebratory, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And not to jump ahead too far, because I do want to return to your earlier releases, but you have just released your first full length with Fake 4 Inc. out of Connecticut, which is a big label. A lot of really famous artists on that label. So you've, let's say, successfully made the jump from Austin to national with a release. Tell us about this. I want to read back. Because I want everyone to hear the kind of music that you're making now before we start talking a ton about it.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about Black Sheeple, and we'll come back to your music making.
Yeah, Black Sheeple is one of the songs I really enjoy off of Flux Populi, which is the album that I dropped on Fake 4. All of it was produced by The Mole, who's out of Central Coast, kind of California, Nevada area. But yeah, I tried to take a few of just the little hot button topics that you hear on the news and whatnot. So Black Sheeple is sort of about weak-willed people that follow the masses and can't really think for themselves,
Absolutely. And this is Black Sheeple from Cheap and the Doomsday Device. Stick around. We'll continue our conversation with him after we listen to this track. Hey, you're listening to Hip Hop Hooray right here on Co-op 91.7 FM, your community radio station. I'm Miss Manners, and I have in studio with me Chief and the Doomsday Device. We've just been got caught up talking about all the great people that he's worked with here in Austin, how prolific he's been and is both in various types of creative art and music and blog writing and review writing. And DJing.
Yes.
And so now
so many things.
Yeah, I do want to return. I want to hear a little bit about your origin story because our listeners may not know this. You've built somewhat of a masked presence for yourself. You cover your face with an animated figure in a beanie hat.
Yes.
On pictures. You are Chief in the Doomsday Device, which has its seminal roots in supervillainy. Tell us about your origin story.
So, yeah, when the Chief name's kind of always been around. That was a old nickname I picked up while I was running around with Dashay doing the DKC thing. But just sort of an organic, one of those natural, hey, Chief kind of deals. So Chief has always been around. And as the word association was sort of transforming and evolving and splitting into more of a split out collective, but before the Binary Audio Misfits thing, which was its own whole journey, I was kind of trying to figure out a proper solo name. And I'm really big into movies, love movies. So I was watching Dr. Strangelove, and that's where the Doomsday Device thing came from, General Ripper, and he was always talking about the Doomsday Device, and I was like, that's awesome. I kind of like that concept, the hit the button and everything's over. So I tacked that on to the Chief. I felt that felt appropriate, and it sort of adds this built-in sort of air of mystery. And
not only that, when you perform, at least when I've seen you, I think pre-pandemic, you had a Doomsday Device on stage with strange lights and buttons.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction reference, the film thing again. I found this really big, cool-looking suitcase at a thrift shop one day, and I was like, this reminds me of Pulp Fiction. I want to put this in a movie. But then it was the right size to put equipment in, so I rotate equipment in and out and have the light mechanism, and it's this a fun little bit of theatrics. It's nice to add some theatrics to the hip hop.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the hip hop. So you have kind of defined for yourself this stream of consciousness, almost improv style. Tell us about what is a perfect rhyme for you, and how you get there.
Man, it's really about being self-referential, both in terms of stuff that inspires and then sort of signpost in life, because sometimes it's fun to return to the music and it reminds you of moments. But I like making sure that I got plenty of references sprinkled in, and then it's about sort of trying to put a layer of decoding into it, to where people can listen and maybe you get it, maybe you don't, maybe after you live some life and listen to some different music or watch some different movies, then you'll go back and listen and you're like, oh, that's what he was talking about, because that's kind of been my experience with music, where the more you hear and the more you expose yourself to, the broader the continuum and scope of music is that you understand. It's just this give and take. So I'm kind of trying to both actively be a part of that and encourage others to be a part of it as well with the writing.
Yeah. And your performance is part stream of consciousness, part these great deep references to various parts of culture. Do you feel like that in a way is a form of sampling?
Kind of, sort of, yeah. I mean, like, because I do, like, when I'm writing the lyrics, I don't even usually write to the music. Usually I'll listen to the music a lot. I'll drive around to it. If I'm at work, I'll have it in the headphones to where I've kind of lived with the beat and I have an idea of what the beat does. And then a lot of the writing comes when I'm just watching movies, watching TV, watching YouTube, and sort of just like catching ideas out the air,
That's cool, yeah.
stitching things together. So
That's cool. And so let's talk about this most recent album. You didn't even have the music, right? Your collaborator, The Mole, out in the west of America, was putting the beats together. He gave you some like temporary ones, right, that you wrote to, or?
Yeah, we had some beats that were sort of just like big, broader sketches. It's like part A, part B, et cetera, et cetera. So I wrote to those. Did all my thing with the recording, which she helped me with some equipment too, which was awesome because my old equipment was all buzzy. But
I know that feeling.
yeah, it was sorely in need of an upgrade, So shout out to the Mole for that as well.
Nice.
But then when we threw all the lyrics back his way, he went through and just sauced the beats up a whole lot more, shifted things around, added all the like sort of gravitas that the music has to it now, because I feel like it definitely has a lot of dynamics to it.
That sweet little outro on Black Sheeple is delightful. I love it. So tell me about Flux Populi, which is the track, obviously the same name as the album that we're going to hear now. If you just joined us, we're talking with Chief and the Doomsday Device, local Central Texas rapper, producer, actor, director, blog writer. He does it all, folks, but most recently he's released Flux Populi on Fake 4 Inc. Records via a collaboration with The Mole. Tell us about the title track.
So the title was inspired from the movie Network. The one about news sort of taking over.
Can't take it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. There was a little small segment when the news turned into an entertainment show called Vox Populi, where it's kind of like giving the power to the people, but subversively. So I kind of always liked that idea. And now with media being 24-hour news cycle, internet being a thing, plus you still got books and historical stuff, nobody's really seeming to take like concrete foundational stances anymore, which is where the flux comes from. Everything seems so like moving and something's important today and it's not important 6 months later,
Disorienting.
It's very disorienting. So that's sort of like the idea for the song, and then the umbrella sort of cover all for the album where you sprinkle the other ideas in. But Flux Populi was the like tentpole idea for the whole album, so I had to make sure I had a song on there that sort of broke it down as well.
Excellent, and it's a great one. So thanks
you.
for bringing it in. This is Flux Populi from Chief and the Doomsday Device. Stick around. We'll be chatting with him a little more right after this track.
This actually, the vocals were inspired by the buzz from the old equipment.
From the old equipment?
Yeah.
So this is going to be great. You're listening to Flux Populi right here on Co-op.
Flux Populi.
Here it's another beautiful Sunday afternoon in Austin, Texas on this Juneteenth. And you're listening to Hip Hoppery right here on Co-op 91.7 FM. I'm Miss Manners. You can find everything we're playing today at Twitter at hip_hop_hooray. And of course, I will post this show in its entirety for you to stream afterwards over at koop.org. Glad to have you along today. And so glad to have in studio with me live Mr. Chief and the Doomsday Device from right here in Central Texas, San Marcos, Austin area. Grew up in Austin, though. And I just have a quick question. Your lyrics are so almost stream of consciousness, so referential, so complex. And there are so many of them. How do you memorize them?
It's hard. I gotta listen. A lot of it is just because I've lived it. Like, that's a self-referential thing that I was mentioning. And then I have to make sure that I'm on it in terms of listening to the music, which I haven't been so good about that lately.
Come on.
So I need to rehearse some more.
I get it. And any live shows, I assume you will post up at your website at
chiefandthedoomsdaydevice.com.
Excellent. Chief, on this day, on Juneteenth. You are a Black American, and I would like to ask you about your experience as a Black American here in Austin and about your family. You said you came from a musical family.
I did, yeah, like just a musical appreciative a musically appreciative family with a few people that had some talent and took it to varying levels of success, if you will. You know, success is a weird word to throw out, you know, but there's always been folks that just wanted to kind of give to music as much as they could what music gave to them within the family. So that became very much instilled in me from a young age, and hip-hop became a good vehicle to actually explore that.
Timely, for sure, in the era that you were raised here in Austin.
Yeah, basically born and raised concurrently, too, with the rise of hip-hop, you know, being born in 79, getting to be an old fella, but hip-hop is getting to be pretty old itself.
Hip-hop's getting old. They're called old heads for a reason.
Yeah, you know, and there was a time where they said it wouldn't last, so there's that.
So true. So I have to ask you, now we're in the second year of celebrating Juneteenth. What does it mean to you?
It's, yeah, we were just kind of talking about how it's interesting that it's only kind of just being federally recognized, because one thing I appreciate about Austin was getting a chance to be exposed to a lot of Black culture and African American culture early on. And over by Rosewood, by Dory Miller Auditorium, they would always have a big Juneteenth parade. They would always have the festival over there. So from being a little kid, I was always educated about Juneteenth and taught about it. So I just kind of assumed everybody knew about it because the community out here celebrated it. And it wasn't until I kind of got into middle school and high school that I realized that things were so staggered in terms of quote unquote freedom, and then the education that's kind of come from that from years of shaping the narratives, you know, and shaping generations. So I do appreciate being a part of the Austin scene for keeping me hip to things like Juneteenth, you know. It's helped me be a more conscious and I think self-aware and community-aware person.
For sure. And I've seen video. I wasn't able to make it yesterday, but apparently there was another amazing Juneteenth parade on the east side yesterday on 12th Street. Looked like they killed it, man. There were awesome dancers and trombonists and really out to celebrate freedom.
Oh, yeah. It's always a celebration of the culture whenever the Juneteenth parade comes around.
Absolutely. Now, you have partially labeled this album, Flux Populi, your brand new release from Fake 4 Inc., political in a way. What do you see as the message that you're trying to get across?
Sort of, I don't know why I said sort of. That undercuts the message immediately.
Start out with sort of. Well, you know, I kind of think.
So my sort of message, it's really about just people, emboldening people to be a little more aware in their communication with one another, and both how it impacts people intellectually and emotionally. I've always kind of tried to put the silver lining around that COVID dark cloud of maybe a little bit of time alone will give people the chance to be introspective. And then when we are allowed back outside again, they'll come out a little bit better people, a little more aware of how they impact one another. And some of that has happened, but to a large scale, it seems like things have just gone back to the way they used to be, if not a little more aggressively the way they used to be. So, yeah, I just kind of try to be an example of living that life you want to see.
Sounds like yours is a call for empathy and thoughtfulness, and you emphasize aloneness. Why do you think being alone is so key?
I think I've never even really, just until this moment, realized that I emphasized aloneness to that extent. But I think it's about identity and just about learning self, because you can't really control what's out there. The only element that you have any sort of control over is yourself, you know, and how you react to the stimulus that's given to you, and how you take the experience and turn around and show that you've learned something from it and aren't just like, you know, bitter about it, you know, and then putting more of that bitterness out into the world.
Do you fight cynicism?
I do fight cynicism a little bit. I always joke that I'm a optimistic pessimist.
I think you can. Your worldview comes through.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to be real about the worldview. You know, you can't always just be like, it's all good, but being aware of the downs help you really appreciate the ups. So,
well, and in part, I think that's why you have so much to say. You have many nuances to explore in what you see in the world. So I look forward to future releases. Tell us a little bit about what's next for you. You've just released the album. Is a tour in the offing? Are you going to go up to Connecticut for like a Fake 4 brunch? I don't know what they do.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure yet what's going on with the tour. And, you know, I kind of at a certain point thought that I would be winding things down at this point. But, you know, the last few years have been really fruitful in terms of collaborating with people.
What do you mean winding things down?
I don't know. I was just I've been doing so much with the blogs and doing a lot of things with film. And I was going to sort of transition the music, and still am thinking at a certain point of exploring different aspects of the music. But I was kind of thinking of like hanging my hat up on the like just rap albums, you know, and rap shows. Because I've been doing it for so long, you know, but then a lot of opportunities have presented themselves over the years that you have to see out. You know, you can't just close the door on like all the work that you've done before. So, yeah, it almost to an extent feels like the journey in terms of the solo thing is just beginning, you know, even though it's been going for a while. So, yeah, I've let people know, and I've told people at one time I was thinking about sort of hanging my hat up on the rap, but there's projects in the works, you know, so I don't know if you ever can truly retire from the rap game. You know?
Well, and the way that you talk about making music is that it's not something that you cannot do, that it's almost compulsive.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, that's something that I like really struggled with, you know, and like juggled that back and forth. And, you know, it's like, okay, well, I'll still probably make albums and drop albums and whatnot, but then all the additional fanfare won't be a part of the game anymore. But I don't know. I've been presented opportunities now I just can't really like squash at this point. You know, you gotta see everything through.
Are there any that you want to reveal that are coming up?
I've been really reinvigorating the connection with the Insect Records folks.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, Butcher Bear over there.
Yeah, Butcher and I have been trying to stop and start working on the album for a long, long time now. But there are little things that are about to pop out with that. And then Kinder from Insect Records is releasing something that I've got 2 songs on.
Nice.
And he and I are working on an entirely new project as well.
Yeah, the opportunities are presenting themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming people can keep track of that at chiefandthedoomsdaydevice.com.
Correct. And then Chief Doomsday, basically anywhere.
On socials. Excellent. Yeah. So now we're going to go out with Flagrant 2. Tell us about this track and impart your final words for our audience, Chief.
Will do. Yeah. So I guess we were all kind of in a roundabout way this last segment talking about energies and whatnot. And that's what Flagrant 2 is really about. It's about what are you putting out into the world? What do you want to see come back to you? Do you want to be like a toxic element in the world? And this ended up being the first single. So I made a crazy video that kind of looks like a infomercial, like sort of those medication infomercials.
Oh, that's killer.
Yeah.
Excellent. You can check that out, chiefandthedoomsdaydevice.com. Chief, thank you so much for coming in today.
Well, thank you for having me.
I've had a blast. I really appreciate your outlook. I appreciate your music, and I'm glad that you have many opportunities ahead of you.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's nice to have been a supporter of the show for so long, and nice to be here on the air, you know.
So great to have you.
Indeed.
Happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth to you as well. Happy Juneteenth to everyone listening.
Happy Juneteenth. Here's Flagrant 2. Hey, you're listening to Hip Hop Hooray right here on Co-op, your community radio station. I'm Miss Manners, and what a great run of songs we just had right across the 3 o'clock hour here on KOOP HD1, HD3, Hornsby. I'm so glad you could join me. Remember, I tweet my playlist live at hip_hop_hooray. I am so glad to have been able to chat with Chief and the Doomsday Device earlier today. If you missed the interview, don't worry. I will post a streaming link or a Mixcloud link to koop.org. Just click on shows and find Hip Hop Hooray, and you'll be able to listen. All right, let me run back through what you just heard. We are celebrating Juneteenth today and the freedom of Black Americans, their art, their creativity, all the wonderful contributions they have given to hip-hop here on Hip Hop Hooray, at least. But, of course, there are Juneteenth celebrations going all over the Co-op schedule. Don't miss later today. There will be a Juneteenth celebration on most every Sunday afternoon show. You don't want to miss that. Tomorrow, Monday, the Austin Artists Collective will be doing a Juneteenth episode, as well as Bringing Light into Darkness. And really throughout the week, tune in to hear great celebrations of Black Americans, the amazing art they've created, how much they've fought for freedom, and how much we have not been willing to give it to them in America. And yet they keep fighting, so let's fight with them. How about that? So glad to have you. We just heard Black Thought. That was State Prisoner. That's off the Streets album that he released last year. It's excellent. Before that, we heard from Daytime, which is a group that includes Vocab. Vocab is the chief laureate of the poet laureate of San Antonio, Texas. That's right. We have this wonderful rapper in the building in San Antonio. That track was called Free to Be Me Unapologetically. Before that, we heard Black Superhero with Killer Mike, BJ the Chicago Kid, and Big KRIT. And that all, of course, is from Robert Glasper's amazing series of albums, Black Radio 3. Great set of tracks and amazing features. Robert Glasper really just pulled together almost an opera of amazing Black music over 3 pieces. So I do recommend that y'all listen to that. And before that, we heard, of course, Flagrant 2, the single from our guest earlier today, Chief and the Doomsday Device, his brand new album, Flux Populi, that he composed with The Mole. That was just released this last May on Fake 4 Inc. You can get more information about him at chiefandthedoomsdaydevice.com.